So now if somebody is asking, what caused the first cause? That means they don't understand how they're using language, because first cause by definition does not have a prior cause. All of the other ones had a prior cause, but we said that it must be necessary to have a first cause. Because without a first cause, you cannot have any of the intermediary causes, and you cannot have the final product, which is our universe. So you must have a first cause, meaning a cause that is not caused by something else. So when somebody is asking us who created God, they're in effect asking us who created the cause that has no cause. You see? And when it is clear that this is what they're asking, you see that the question is not coherent. It is a non-question. It's grammatically formed. It seems like a question, and it may be written in English with a question mark at the end, but it is not a real question.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we've got somebody over here.
Thank you, Sheikh, for some lovely insights. I have a comment really about science. You know, science is a beautiful gift from Allah Ta'ala. It's an extraordinary thing which has really done amazing things in terms of enhancing the quality of our lives and all the technology and bringing the words of Quran to everybody and so on. Amazing things. And yet I find that, and there's an element in your presentation today, I find that the Muslim clergy has some conflict with science. And we know that, I think, if we carry out some analysis, perhaps the downfall of the Islamic civilization which began around the 1400s probably came from this idea that science is perhaps a form of innovation which should not be encouraged. And I have a problem with this. I wonder if you have any comments on this, please.
Sure. I'm glad you asked the question, because I don't want to leave with the impression that, I don't want to give the impression that we have a conflict with science. That was not what I intended at all, and if I sounded that way, I seek your forgiveness and ask Allah's forgiveness for misrepresenting His religion. No, our religion has no conflict with science. What I did say in the talk was that science is capable of only doing so much, and science cannot speak in areas outside of science. A scientist is a specialist in his field, but it is an axiom that an expert outside of his own field is just another lay person. Now, if we are asking questions about science, then we should turn to scientists, and they are the ones that have the expertise to tell us about those areas. Science can therefore talk about what they observe. But as is well known in the philosophy of science, science only works by disproof. Science does not work by establishing proof. Somebody makes some observations, they come up with a hypothesis, and that hypothesis is tested with an attempt to disprove it. If the hypothesis is not disproved despite a number of good attempts, it rises eventually to the status of a theory. And then that theory too may be held until a better theory comes along to explain a number of observable phenomena better than the previous theory. So science does not proceed by proving something once and for all finally, but it works by disproving bad ideas. And so it is hoped that by eliminating bad ideas over time, we remain just with good ideas. And for this reason, science, because of its openness to further study and allowing for disproof, it has served humankind in great ways that you have rightly mentioned in your question, brother. And in fact, when I speak tomorrow about restoring our dignity, I may have a thing or two to say about the developments among Muslims, developments of science and technology, advancements in medicine and astronomy and in optometry and in mathematics and so on. But let's leave that for tomorrow. For now, I don't feel that our religion has any conflict with science. But now, if a scientist starts to speak outside of his field, and he starts to address philosophical questions, well, then he's just a layman. The purpose of human creation, this is a philosophical question. It's not a scientific question. There's no laboratory in the world that can discover the purpose of human creation. Even the new Hadron Collider, which is trying to find the God particle, as they term it, this cannot discover the purpose of our creation unless that particle pops into a writing in the clouds that says the purpose of human creation is this. If we want to know the purpose of human creation, we do not turn to scientists, but we turn to the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So that's where we're going to find it. So we put everything in its right place. Science has a place, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's revelation is of necessity. So we embrace both.
Next question.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to manipulate with the nature, but to what extent, for example, genetic modified organisms? I mean, in the medicine industry, it is used a lot, for example, to produce insulin and things like that. But in terms of starvation and things like that, it might also help people, or it could disrupt the ecosystem. But what is the Islamic view on genetically modifying organisms?
Okay, the question, I'm afraid, is beyond my level of study. I'm not capable of answering this question, so I will defer it for another time if Allah gives me the opportunity to study that issue. But in the meantime, I will ask you to consult those scholars who have that training and who can answer that question for you. We have time for a couple more?
We've got one more. 5 more minutes.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You know, some of the questions when I talk to non-Muslims and give them da'wah is like the atheists. When I speak to them and I tell them that who created this universe, they go and say that this universe has been going on and it didn't have a beginning, and they say it will not have an end. I say to them, okay, how did it make? They said it just created itself. So can you give me some advice? How can I answer back to those kind of people?
Okay, sure. Well, the idea that the universe just simply exists in and of itself, by itself, this does not seem to be right. Keith Ward, a philosopher at Oxford University, has written a book entitled God, Chance, and Necessity. And what he intends by the title is to say that there are really 3 choices in thinking about how the universe comes to exist. One choice is that it just simply exists by itself of its own necessity. Or to put it differently, really, there are only 2 choices, but they can be broken down. One of them can be separated into 2, thus giving us 3 choices. So let me start over and say that there are basically 2 choices. Either God created the universe, or the universe exists by itself. And if the universe exists by itself, then either it comes into existence by some chance, or it exists by its own necessity. So that's how there are 3. So now, leave aside for the moment the idea that God created the universe. Then we're left with the other choice. The universe exists by itself, and either it exists by some chance occurrence, or by some necessity that is inherent in the universe itself. There is what scientists look for, and they call the Grand Unified Theory, or GUT for short, G-U-T. They want to find some theory of the universe that will help to explain the universe as it is. But for the moment, there is no such theory. Nobody knows why the universe exists if we take away God from the equation. So there is no discovery of anything in the universe